And hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Box Office Shuffle. I'm one of your hosts, Thomas, aka Mr. Warburg. This week, for Season 2, Episode 4, we are diving back to 2013, a whole 7 years before COVID, for a little outbreak movie called World War Z, which, of course, was based on the very famous World War Z book that was kind of like told in a documentary style series. This is a very different movie, though, and we'll get into that here very shortly. We'll get into what our panel thought of it. And speaking of our panel, we've got Joe, a.k.a. Joe.
Hey, what up?
And we've got Chris, a.k.a. Gamma Caruchador.
Yo!
Now, Gamma, for those of you who don't know in the audience, hates zombies. Like, genuinely, like, nope, basically had to keep this on a second monitor to get through it without clenching the entire time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we're going to go into some thoughts on the movies, but before we do that, this is Box Office Shuffle, which if you don't know what we do, we take our physical media collections between the three of us, and we pick a host each week, and then we shuffle that person's collection, hence Box Office Shuffle. General rule, movies had to have like a theatrical kind of runs, that way box office actually applies.
No Barbie at-home movies.
No.
I gotta
But
clean my list
the
up
Barbie movie, could
Yeah.
possibly be on there.
That counts.
Yeah.
And this week, of course, was World War Z from 2013, which was from Joe's collection. Before we get into some facts and figures, Joe, what was this rip from? Because Joey, you do a jellyfin server, basically to rip your
Yes.
physical media for digital consumption. So what were we sourcing this from?
We're sourcing it on a Blu-ray.
Ooh, I thought this was
I got in the
DVD.
back. No, this one could probably be reran and redid because I've made some adjustments to my ripping process to make Blu-rays a little more high quality and doesn't take up that much more space. So,
Fair enough. All right, so the facts and figures on this one. It was released June 21st, 2013 here in the U.S. Like I said, 7 years before COVID, which is a very different world. What a time. It was based on the 2006 book by Max Brooks, who's the son of Mel Brooks. And in our pre-show, we were talking about Mel Brooks. I didn't know he was Mel Brooks' kid. He was a writer on SNL from 01 to 03 while he was working on his first book, which was The Zombie Survival Guide, and then followed up with World War Z, which was an acclaimed bestseller. Had a huge... I remember the audiobook series because it had Mark Hamill in it. And that won a bunch of awards. And then it was in 07 and 08, there was a bidding war for who was going to get the rights to it that Paramount would eventually win. As this was a Paramount, and I think Skydance was the other partner. And then now, fast forward, 12 years later, Skydance just bought Paramount. I think, if I'm remembering the story right, in like a merger buy situation. So,
okay.
some weird tie-ins to present day from 12 years ago. Directed by Mark Forster, who was director of a number of other high-profile movies around that time. His first big movie was probably Monsters Ball, which I believe Halle Berry won an Academy Award for that one. I think.
I don't know.
It's like 01. It's like before our time as like conscious moviegoers, but it was a very big deal. One of the first movies I remember actually watching from this guy was Stranger Than Fiction with Will Ferrell, which is a genuinely great Will Ferrell movie if you've never seen it. It's very like serious, but the concept itself is funny, but he's playing it straight, which is what makes it great. He directed Quantum of Solace, which is pretty universally the worst of the Daniel Craig films, but it is in of itself actually a fairly functional action movie.
Mm-hmm. It is a middle movie of a trilogy or series for sure.
That is the one you were like, they really wanted to do Spectre and like last minute. Nope, you don't get to do it. Sorry, but you got to make the movie anyway. Like it suffers from that. And then most recently, he had a Tom Hanks movie called A Man Called Otto, which
is actually a great movie. I love that movie.
So pretty solid director all around. Had some other ones that were a little more up and down, but those are the more prevalent ones that I could bring to mind. He also did that Christopher Robin one with Ewan McGregor.
Oh, yeah. 100 Acre Woods or whatever it was called? Or was it just called Christopher Robin?
I think it was just called Christopher Robin, I think.
Oh, okay.
But it's the one where he's an adult coming back and like interacting with the Winnie the Pooh characters. The box office for this one, it came in at $540 million, though it did have a budget of $190, and given the fact that Brad Pitt was the star, generally the reporting on it is it basically broke even. Because the third act, which we'll get into in a little bit, exploded on Paramount to a degree they did not expect. It was supposed to have a budget of like 110, 120. And then the third act was like, fuck it, we need an extra 70 million minimum. Like, that is very expensive.
That's what we got? Okay.
Yeah. There were a few other actors who, the most prevalent one for me is Peter Capaldi, who would show up at the WHO before he became Dr. WHO. shout out to Duran for the joke.
That was a great joke. It's like, oh my god, he is a Who or Doctor. I was like,
I think by default he's just my favorite Doctor because he's the most I've watched of the Doctor. But man, he gives a really fun edge to that character. And that's the basic gist. Before we get into some of the ins and outs of it, but Joey, this is a film from your collection, so I assume this is a movie you enjoy. Yes,
it is. It's just to me, it's a solid watch. It gets me that little bit of anxiety feel from the beginning, first and second half of the movie. I don't know if I'm in the mood for a zombie movie. Out of my collection, I'm probably going to pick this one to watch. Unless I'm looking for like a funny zombie movie to watch. And of course, Shaun of the Dead's there. But for me in my collection...
Later?
That one's not mine, but it's in the Jellyfin server.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I have never actually watched that one, and it's getting a sequel, so I need to watch it.
Oh, okay. Because I think I got all of them except for, of course, the new one. Because there's 28 days later, then
28 weeks later.
28 weeks later, yeah.
And then I think there's a third one technically, but
is it 28 years later?
I can't remember. This one is it not 28 years later?
Is the new one? I have no clue.
I don't remember.
Oh,
yeah.
But so yeah, now that you're coming back to it, does it still hold up?
Act 1, and of course Act 2 do, but I kind of lose it at the latter half. Near the end, I'm just kind of like, okay, we got ultimate plot armor. I don't know, there's some flaws in it we can go into later, but I'm sure you guys are going to pick it out too. But yeah, no, it still kind of holds up, because I rewatched it actually last year, so this is my...
Oh, okay, so you've seen it fairly recently. I hadn't seen it since you and I probably went to see it in theaters.
Yeah.
I think it was the last time I watched this. I might have seen it with some of the college crew back then in 2013, but I hadn't seen it since, and I didn't really care to. So, Chris, as the noted zombie not lover, what were your thoughts on this one?
So, let's run down the timeline. The movie started. About 2 minutes into the movie, I started working on art. About 5 minutes into the movie, I made the screen really small on my monitor. And then at about 7 minutes into the movie, I moved that screen to another monitor, and I lowered the volume to about 30%. And then at about 10 minutes into the movie, I was shitting bricks over here, so I started watching YouTube and doing art for the rest of the time because I do not like zombies, and I have no shame admitting my fear there.
Fair.
I have a whole thing, like, I don't know what it is, I don't know why, but cannibalism is terrifying to me. If there's ever anything that like doesn't have to be zombies, just like that act of cannibalism in any way, like I will not watch Silence of the Lambs or anything along those lines. Like that, I will not do it because it's just too creepy and freaky to me. If they're going for scary, applause, they did a great job. I wanted to leave this body and end everything after 5 minutes, but I'm still here. What can you do? But yeah, I tried looking over at certain times. There was a time where even at 30% volume, I could still hear it, and I was terrified of the sound, so I had to mute the video for a little bit, and I then went over and continued watching my video on the Cincinnati Bengals spending habits over the years.
Love the deep dive.
Pull up some Mina Kimes analysis.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was this was going to be a hard one for me to get through, even if I paid attention to it. There would not be smiles on my face right now if I had watched this movie.
Hey, fair play, man.
Yeah,
So,
hey.
and in our chat, you would have seen it within the first 10 minutes. I said I'd rather be watching The Godfather. That's
Yeah,
how
I
much
saw
I don't like zombie movies.
Yeah.
So
this is bottom of the barrel for Gamma.
yes, The Godfather is no longer holding the weight of everything else that I think is better. There is another that gets to be buried
No.
farther down.
We're moving our
There
way
is
up.
another.
We're moving our way up.
Joey's
from the
hoping for
bottom.
all of the zombie movies to come
hoping
up
for
just so that we can
every-
get The Godfather out of the bottom 5.
Just
or
like
whatever.
in the middle pack. I'll be happy then.
Fair enough. So for me,
Yeah.
like I said, I hadn't seen this since 2013, and I'm ambivalent towards it. I'm more on the general consensus on this one, which as at the time of release and the general rule, like Joey, you noted it's probably bumped up a little bit of late, but it's about a 6 out of 10 film. Generally, was the rating at the time of the general consensus, largely because the first 2 acts, while frantic, hold together. Third act, not so much at all. So the film
Okay, so
has
because I didn't really get to see it, can you guys explain the movie to me?
okay. So in the first act, we're basically dropped into the very opening hours of
Yes.
the mass outbreak in America. We later find out it's happened in other parts of the world quicker, so we know in the film the U.S. is not the origin, but that's really the only concrete evidence they have about where anything did or did not come from.
Okay.
Other than a potential possibly patient zero in South Korea. And
Okay.
that's really it. They don't go into the ins and outs of what the zombie outbreak is. In fact, zombies the word zombie isn't said that much. I remember the marketing about this, they never really said zombie, but I'm like, yeah, they do though. Multiple people do.
Was this like a Last of Us scenario where it was like a parasite or something, or
No, and in the original material too, there's no origin. detected.
we just don't know why any of this happened?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
dealing with
Okay.
it and trying to survive.
Gotcha. Okay.
The book is a significantly different story, and we'll get into those differences in a moment. But the structure of the movie follows Jerry, I can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
He is a UN investigator and is sent to these hot spots to try to figure out what's going on, how can they fight it, how can they survive for this group of UN ships and American ships that have coalesced in the Atlantic Ocean, where his family is sequestered on a ship. So he goes to South Korea. They find what they think might be patient zero, but everything's burned because the zombies freaked out and nearly killed everyone. And we meet a pretty actually fun group of U.S. soldiers who have nothing else to do in the movie, and they're just gone. I really wish they had found a way to keep them in the plane, because I think that would have made the movie much better.
Yeah.
Because Brad Pitt is fine in this movie, but he's got really nobody to play off of for the
Right.
last 45 minutes of this movie.
Okay.
And it's, I think, to me, hurts it a little bit because he's a fantastic actor. In an ensemble thing where he's got somebody to go with, it works
Right.
great for me.
Like
This is
him
a lot
and George Clooney in the...
Obviously,
Ugh.
that would have been a very different tone to this.
Right, but you want that kind. You want
Yeah.
somebody to play off of.
Yeah.
In the movies with him and George Clooney, they're going to be funny. But if he's stacked up with a Stellan Skarsgård or something like that in this movie as a comrade who's helping him or whatever, that can give him that play off.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So then we go to South Korea. Shit gets crazy. They have to get on the plane and leave, and they have to leave the cargo door open so all the zombies fly out the back. Which is actually a pretty inventive use of, airplane mechanics.
Oh, it is. It just, yeah, and Israel
They-
bothered me.
Yeah, the Israel
not-
thing is the concept's dope. And then
Yeah.
it's oh, it's falling apart because we have to for the plot. Not great. But the concept of they're 10th man and they have to do things, if the 9 people say do this, the 10th guy, just go do the thing. Which
Yeah.
in practice isn't how it works, but is a very different thing. But their concept is to build a wall. But they did that in like 8 days? No. Even Israel's not doing that in 8 days.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But that's the general concept, and you roll with it because the movie's moving at a fast enough pace. You don't care. All the noise draws all the zombies in. You get that iconic shot of them like mountaining themselves up the top of this wall and coming over the top. And then chaos ensues. And you get a fascinating bit where the character gets bit, which is actually the Israeli soldier that is trying to get Brad Pitt out of Israel gets bit on the hand, or like right inside the wrist. And he just grabs a huge ass knife and whacks her arm off, which is actually the movie using the concept of how they've defined the virus really, really well. Because early in the movie, like very beginning, they set up that this virus can infect you and basically destroy your nervous system and turn you into a zombie in like 10 seconds. Which is nuts even for zombie movies.
Yeah.
That's nuts. Like that's video game logic right there. That's not
Right.
zombies in film and TV up to that point, basically.
Right.
But it is used mechanically there pretty well because he cuts the arm off immediately and starts wrapping it up, and like they hold her at gunpoint to make sure she's not going to turn. And it's really effective, like tension moment. And then they're able to get to an airfield and leave Israel. And this is where things go off the rails. This is where we get into some actual production stuff.
All right, let's get into it.
So would it, as I said in the Discord when we were watching this with the J Bros, would it shock you to know that there were three main writers for the script? And a lot of it had to do with the third act.
No. Because the third act, I'm just like, this is, yeah.
So originally, the movie was written by J. Michael Straczynski, which was apparently a script much closer to the book series. The book series, just to touch on here, is more of a documentary style, after action kind of documentary, like Ken Burns-ish, about survivors and their stories of the war. Not about the zombies or the fight against them or like specific, like not doing like a war documentary, but like an account of an oral history kind of account.
Gotcha.
And that's why it was so fascinating, is because it really wasn't about the zombies. It was about the human struggle around this thing that just happened to be zombies. The movie is not this book. And the script was actually pretty well written early into pre-production. As early as 2007, 2008, he had a good script, but Paramount was like dragging their feet, and then it actually gets rewritten in 2009 by Matthew Michael Karenin, that into largely what you see from the movie today, from what I've found. And then that third act gets another rework by one of the co-creators of Lost, Damon Lindelof, who wrote a ton of great shows, like 2019's Watchmen. He's behind that. I think he was the showrunner of that too. One of my favorite shows of all time.
Does he have a thing for plane crashes?
Apparently. So he writes that. And there was apparently a whole different like part of the ending, which is they were supposed to have this conflict in Russia. And I couldn't source this, but this part's pretty well sourced, that they had gotten all these props and guns together for this final conflict. It seems like it was supposed to be for a bunch of soldiers, because there were about 85 guns and a number of other props and sets. The Hungarian Counterterrorism Task Force, which is where they were filming, was in Hungary for this, raided their warehouse and took all the guns, which were actually functional. They were completely not loaded, no bullets or anything, but they were functional guns. Largely, they were just going to be background pieces, and then your dummy, blank bullets for your live production. And then no charges were ever filed, but it took so long they were like, okay, different third act. Like that's the basic Wikipedia summary, and I did a couple article deep dives while the movie was playing, and that's the basic gist. Is like that was right around when they were going into shooting reshoots, because this movie had a number of reshoots during production, and then they just couldn't shoot that. So they had to completely change course and do something totally different, which is par for the course. But once they get on the plane in Israel, they end up going to Wales, to the WHO facility, where we meet the aforementioned earlier in the show, Peter Capaldi, and a cast and crew of doctors and scientists. And we get the plot of that they've been coming back to, that this virus only attacks the healthy, basically. If you're sick, they won't. Which makes me wonder. The mechanics of it gets wonky. Does Crohn's disease count? Because I have Crohn's. It's pretty bad sometimes. Would they
Yeah.
attack me? I don't know.
How low of sick can you be?
Or would I have to
Yeah.
have an active flare to not be?
Right.
Well, so that one guy, that one Marine guy in South Korea didn't get attacked, and he was in the pen and he had a limp.
My guess was he had like a cancer or something and didn't know.
Okay.
Because he looked like really pale compared to the
Yeah,
rest
compared
of
to
the
everyone
guys.
else, yeah, he did got look pale.
Yeah.
I was just like, is it because of the limp?
And then there was a really old guy who maybe he had like a
Mhm.
pancreatic issue or something. And there was the young kid.
Yep.
That
And
gets.
then there was the bum on the street. In
Wait.
the beginning half.
Oh yeah, he was just chilling, but you never really see him get left though.
True, I guess.
That was before they had established what the issue was, and he didn't flash
Yeah.
back to him.
Hmm.
So I don't think he's included in that. Alcoholism doesn't count, I guess.
Yeah. No.
And then he ends up injecting himself with an unknown pathogen that's never confirmed in anything, and then gets cured, and that becomes the camouflage for how they can go fight the zombies and take the fight to them to save humanity. And it was also a little bit of a setup for a potential sequel that was originally planned and had a number of script renditions itself that was finally scrapped in 2017. So we never got a
Mhm.
sequel.
Didn't know that.
So for me, as I said though in the Discord call, man, an HBO series of this would have been absolutely awesome.
I think it'd been a lot better, especially if you did
Do-
what the book was doing.
Yeah,
was
do a
this-
Ken Burns style.
Yeah,
oral
individual
history.
Yeah.
stories.
And then you
Yeah.
have some
Oh, that got
flashbacks that
so
are
hard.
epic,
Yeah.
you know, and that's it. You don't show too much. You leave them wanting more.
Mhm.
Get some
Mm.
really compelling actors to really sell those stories, because there's some harrowing ones about like mercy killings and like churches and stuff.
Mm.
Like as people realized the world was ending. There's I think that's the one where there's a story about a guy who really thinks the world has ended and civilization's back, but he's in a bunker and he doesn't want to come out because he thinks they're all lying. He doesn't think they're real. Like, you know, like that kind of psychology part would be great,
Mm.
you know?
Hmm.
That would have been a really cool concept for a
Yeah.
miniseries, like a one-off miniseries. Like that'd be really cool to see. And we might still one day, because it's still a fantastic book that's obviously still around. You know, it would not be unheard of at all for a literary work like that to get multiple adaptations.
No.
You know, like True Grit's got 2 really good ones.
That's
That's
true.
True.
You know, things like
That's very true.
Joey, any other notes on that I miss on the plot?
Do nothing really that comes to mind as of right now.
Okay,
Maybe
so
some flashbacks in a little bit.
that was the basic gist.
Mhm.
I think it's a functional zombie action movie that leaves me with the bad kind of questions.
Mm.
Quiet Place left me with good kind of questions.
Oh yes, Quiet
Right?
Place is incredible.
Like you want to realize, ooh, what if this happened, or what if that happened, or what's going on here, right? Like in a like I'm invested way. Whereas this kind of movie is on the wrong side of, okay, well, why'd you do that? Kind of questions. Not terrible,
No.
but on the wrong side of the line for me.
yeah,
If it wasn't Brad Pitt, if it was any of a lesser actor than Brad Pitt, this would be like a 5 or a 4 probably for me.
Speaking of Brad Pitt, do you guys know that Brad Pitt was in No Man's Land? Which Randy Quaid was also in No Man's Land, and therefore
That's our connection.
we have a one-step
Yes!
to Kingpin. Let's go!
Let's fucking
my
go!
God.
That was my preparation.
Yes,
If you-
yes, go,
if
go,
you
go,
don't know,
go,
audience,
go, go.
Kingpin.
Joey's
Kingpin.
collection had Kingpin, which is an awful 90s comedy. It's terrible. Randy Quaid stars in it. It's not good. And we've been having a running gag where we try to connect the current movie we have to that movie. I hate that movie so much.
It's so good.
I'm gonna drill this into everybody, and we're gonna make it a thing.
It's gonna
How many
fucking
steps
happen,
to
don't care.
Kingpin?
How many steps to
I hate
And we
that.
haven't gone above 1 yet.
I think we
Guys, Kingpin
Yeah, we had
is
one.
so centralized.
it's the core of Hollywood, I guess.
It is. It is. Oppenheimer, Kingpin, they're two of the same thing.
Oh,
fuck
God
me.
damn it. All right. Let's go to scores.
Ugh.
Anybody got a score for me? Like I said, I'm with the consensus 6 out of 10. Anybody got higher or lower?
I'm gonna absolve myself of this one because I didn't actually really watch the movie.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think 6 is. Yeah, I can't go more. I can't go less. I'd say 6.
All right. Well, that's an easy one. 6 out of 10 is the
Nice,
group
easy.
consensus.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get into what our next film's going to be, Joey, I know you have a film you added to your collection.
I do.
Chris, did you?
No, I haven't added it to, or I haven't gotten any more films. I just added to the list. So
Fair enough.
but that's
Joe,
from December.
what did you pick up that I already know about?
The Wizard of Oz. I don't know where the case is.
Oh,
It's
like the
upstairs.
original?
It's the Blu-ray one.
But we're testing
Nice.
out to
Original
see
one,
his
yep.
ripping on a UK release.
It's a UK release, so I'm gonna see if I can make it work. But I think I can. But I get to try because I got to get a new key for my ripping tool.
Yeah, we
so.
checked out a
Interesting.
thrift store in our nearby hometown, or near enough to our hometown, and we actually found out they're going to get a huge estate sale in April or May. We're like 1,000 plus
excited.
movies, original game hardware, video games. Like
Yeah.
they're like, they don't know where they're going to put all the stuff.
Yeah,
It's
we're talking
huge.
like original PlayStation, Xbox,
They said some Super Nintendo,
consoles,
like,
Super
yeah.
Nintendo. I'm like, fuck.
Like me and Joey,
Be a
we're
good
bringing
time.
some cash. Let's go to town.
Oh yeah, you've got a little trip set up for.
I'm
whenever that
hoping
happens.
it's the kind of collector like me where everything is properly stored, things are checked, so the discs are in good shape.
Mhm.
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it wasn't like me when I was younger and things were just laying around. Like I got PlayStation 1 games that are beyond salvageable, but I'd like to play them. Like the original Harry Potter game, like for the PlayStation, that one is oddly fun to me. And it's just beyond scratch because I just like, I put it on the, like, I'd put it on top of the PlayStation as this rotating disc and shit like that. And
Mm.
I was quite bad with the games.
So, let's choose our next film, shall we?
Let's do it.
Oh,
Let's go to the wheel spin page. First, we have to pick who the host is because we just completed a rotation. Because our
That's
first
true.
film
okay.
of the season was a pick from for football because of Super Bowl. So we didn't do the
Yes.
regular rotation. This is the wheel, as you can see to my, well, no, it'd be screen facing the screen. It'd be on the left center of the screen, where we pick whose collection it is, and we just completed a rotation. So here we go. Spinning away, spinning away. Looks like it's gonna be. It's gonna be me.
Let's
It's
go.
gonna be me.
My collection. Close. Open. Thomas's movie list. 222 movies on the list,
Ooh.
and or some franchises because some of them I'm grouped together, like Fast and Furious.
Yeah.
They all go together.
Yep.
All right, let's spin that wheel.
Spin that wheel. Spin that wheel.
It is slowed down. Oh, it's a war movie. Enemy at the
Okay.
Gates.
Enemy at the gate.
Let me look this up.
That with,
That's interesting because we just did we had Heart's War as your last one.
Yeah.
We
So
did.
2 war movies.
Man,
in a-
I'm getting
in a
stuck
row.
on some World War. Enemy at the Gates is another 2001 movie.
Ooh.
It's guest stars. hang
Jude
on.
Law, Ed Harris.
Ooh, that's already a good cast.
It's Stalingrad.
Out of the
The
bulge.
French director, written off a
Oh.
nonfiction book about the Battle of Stalingrad in the winter of 1942 and 1943. Stars Jude Law, Rachel Weisz, Ed Harris, Joseph Fiennes, Bob Hoskins, Ron Perlman. And that's about it. So,
Wow,
yes,
that's a cast.
good cast. I don't
Yeah.
remember ever watching this. This might be a first time for me. Yeah.
I don't think I've watched this either. I'm watching the trailer right now.
Definitely a DVD
Nothing
release for me because
seems...
I inherited a bit of a collection from my parents they bought a lot of movies for cheap back when I was a kid because it was just something to watch because we didn't have good TV. Grew up on a farm with an antenna. We had 9 channels, and we didn't
Yeah.
get good internet until I was in college, so it didn't matter. So there was a good 10-year stretch there where like we just watched DVDs, and I played video games. So I don't think I ever watched this
Yeah.
once. So enemy at the gates, not enemy of. Enemy
Yeah.
Yeah.
gates, which will be in
Dude, this is
D.
I can already tell that this is going to give me flashbacks to playing like Call of Duty Finest Hour on my GameCube.
Oh, damn. That's
You ever
where
play the
played it.
original?
Okay.
Dude, that I've played the original. I did not play a lot of it because it was a PC only game, I want to say.
Nope, I had it on
when it
PlayStation.
originally came out.
Well, it
And
might have come
then
out
it
on
got
PlayStation.
released later. But I never got to play it because I never had a PlayStation and I didn't have a PC. I played maybe an hour of the campaign at my cousin's house one time. But my first Call of Duty games were Call of Duty Finest Hour and Call of Duty Big Red 1. And
Yep.
then I got Call of Duty 2
Shit.
and pretty much did all of them up to like Black Ops 2, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah, like for Medal of Honor was. Wait, no, not Call of Duty. I meant Medal of Honor. Sorry,
Ooh, Medal of Honor.
Okay.
I remember playing.
That was a PlayStation release. Yeah, that's where my head went. Not Call of Duty. I completely spaced.
Yeah.
Because there was a
What is-
great segment. If you let the game run, it would do like behind the scenes, where it
Mhm.
would like a comedy track almost, where like it would play these clips from the game where you're getting yelled at in German, but then there's the English translation, which you don't get in the game,
Oh,
and it would be
interesting.
like them talking to their dog about attacking you. It'd be like, the American has dog biscuits in pocket. And then the dog would run at you. And then you hear like the announcer, the English still be like, bazooka. It's so good.
It's funny.
You just
That
it's
is
me and
funny.
my sister, we just let that run sometimes. Good times. All right.
I did it. I had a Russian history class in college, and I did my final exam. I played Call of Duty Finest Hour, and there's a lot where you play as Russian soldiers. And like, because it was like a Russians in media type of thing that I was trying to do. And like, I literally played Call of Duty for my final project in college.
Nice. Let's go.
And I was like, yeah, that's that was fun.
Fair enough. All right, let me actually make sure I pull this out of my list while I'm thinking of it, because I didn't even take Hearts War out of the list. That could have came up. That could have happened again.
Could have.
A double Hearts War?
Been a really easy
Whoa.
next episode.
Yeah, I think we would have spun the wheel again. All right, that's a little over 30 minutes, but that's about on target. So we're going to get
Yeah.
out of here for Box Office Shuffle episode 4 of season 2. Any other closing thoughts, gentlemen?
I would not buy World War Z and put it in my collection.
True.
True.
I'm not going to either. I don't care to.
I have and I did. So
Is
Would.
it because just of the third act that you wouldn't?
No, I think for me, it's how it's shot is not my kind of film. Very shaky cam,
Gotcha.
the motion blur. I just don't like sitting through that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
So I really
That's
don't
fair.
I don't really have a great love of the Bourne films. The first one's
shit,
really
That is
good.
also fair. Yeah.
Other than that, I'm like,
really enjoyed those.
I mean, I'll watch them if they're on TNT. That's where this is one of those kind of movies where it's like, oh, this is on TBS or TNT.
Yeah.
I'll watch it,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna forget about it. The only thing I remember from
Fair
the Bourne ones is Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne.
I remember the pen going into the guy's hand.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was good.
All right, we're out of here. We'll be back in roughly 2 weeks for Enemy at the Gates from my collection. See you around.
Ah.